Good evening, everyone. I want to call this Committee of the Whole meeting of October 26th to order. And I have a motion to approve the agenda, moved by Deputy Mayor, oh, sorry. What's your name? Mayor Ostrander. What's the difference? Seconded by Councillor Anderson, that the October 26, 2020 Committee of the Whole Budget meeting agenda be approved as presented. All those in favor? And do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest? None. And we have no delegations. Do we have any citizens' comments? Okay, so I don't need that. So next, we're going to move into staff reports. We've all received the binder from Linda, and I trust that we've all read it. So I'm going to have Linda say a few words, and then we'll have an opportunity to ask some questions, and then we'll take a look at the capital budget. Linda, go ahead.
Thank you. So yes, Council has all received these binders last week, and probably noted through reading through it that the revised budget timetable is in this book, starting on page 3. And there's reports from every department head in here for their capital budget summary. New process this year, we're starting off with capital, Council had asked us to bring back capital budget of the CPI up to 2% plus 1%. The CPI at the time that we noted it for the development charges study was 2.4%. So we brought back a budget of 2% plus 1, so 3% increase. I thought that the easiest way, Deputy Mayor, to go through this for you, assuming that nobody has any additions or anything to add to their reports, is just to look at that big pop out of the tax support and rate support capital budget. I only have a small one because I gave the large print one away, but yours is large print, it'll pop out. So if that's the way you would like to go forward, I would think that that might be the most efficient.
Sounds good to me. Okay, so I guess what we should do then, so we're talking about this big sheet. This is what we're going to go off of, isn't it? Oh, why did I pull out the wrong? This is capital. Yeah, this one, right? Is that not what you have?
I believe if you go to your, yeah. If you go to the tab that says
Oh, I see that
capital
capital one.
projects,
More detail. Well, this one's going to take longer than the one I had out. Okay, so at this point, of all the staff that are here and the reports you've given, is there anyone that wants to add to the report before we start talking about it, or are you okay with doing that as we get to it? No one's raising their hand. Okay, so let's start. And if we have questions for staff, we can ask them when we're going through their report. So we're going to start with general government. Just let me get myself. So we have our budgeted column. Those are the numbers I'm going to talk about. And then if you go across, you can see whether it's coming from reserves or from tax support and everything else there. So first we have the Alice Street brick repairs. I know one member of council will be very happy about that. So it's 110,000. We have computers at 3,500, development charges, 10,000, land purchase. At 600, so 723,500. So let's open that up for some discussion. Councillor Tadman.
Yes, thank you. I'm really pleased that we're going to get new bricks on the back of this place, or not this place, over at the other place on Alice Street, because they're sitting in the garden, and I think we're having some problems with leakage. So that's a good repair. But the land purchase, 600,000, what is that all about? I can't remember.
Sure, I'll jump in. We've had a couple of in-camera reports over the course of the last 6 or 8 months, and we've got a couple of properties in mind. One of the ones that were direction from council was to take a look at Memory Junction and whether we're interested in purchasing that property or not. And as you may recall, last year, council provided us with plus or minus $25,000 in order to do some due diligence. And certainly we've had an assessment of the structural integrity of the building. So that's been completed. However, we were not able to get the environmental assessment to determine how the level of contamination that's on that property. So that's property issue number one. And a second property is related to our long-term plans for a combined facility for arena and curling club. If you recall, we had a session, oh boy, it's last fall, I guess, plus or minus, and we had provided staff with some direction to explore some lands that really don't want to talk about in an open session, but certainly council gave both Mr. Miller and myself some marching orders in that regard, and at an appropriate time in the future, I'd be happy to give you an update. So those are the two properties that comprise the $600,000 budget.
So this 600,000, we're putting in the budget, earmarking it for these potential land purchases. It would be externally financed. So if we decided to purchase next year, we would be adding those finance charges or whatever interest to the budget at that time that's taxpayer supported, correct? Just so we're clear on what we're doing if we decide to agree with this?
That's correct, and it depends on the time of year whether that will impact 2021 or 2022 and
Okay.
onward.
Okay. So we're not agreeing to go out and add 600,000 to our taxes, basically, immediately. Any other questions on that section, general government? Okay. Suggestions? Do we want to go through this and agree upon it, or do we on each section, or do you want to just discuss first, or should we just be? Councillor Tabin?
I would just like to discuss first.
Okay,
I
and then we'll go
think
back.
it's pretty hard to eliminate before we get the full picture.
So what we'll do is we'll go through this because it's in detail, and then we'll go through the sheet that I like, and that's when we'll agree upon whether or not we're good with that budget. Does that work? Because it's more compact. We've already had the discussion, and we can go through each item and give our yay or nay. Does that sound good to everyone? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So next is the fire department. Do you want me to read through each line, or do you want me to just look at the bottom line here and pull out whatever you like? We have 626,500. Any items there that you have questions about or want to discuss? Go ahead, Councillor LeBlanc.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to the finance. The replacement, the 3/4 ton truck. It looks like is that a new truck? But then I see it says reserve 400,000, support 30,000. So is that another new vehicle for the fire hall?
Through the Deputy Mayor, yes, it is a new vehicle to replace the existing Ford that we have with the cap on the back.
Go ahead. Mayor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. How old's that Ford? So
2008.
it's an '08 with 250,000 kilometers. Is that what I heard? Thank you.
That's correct.
Okay, any other questions with this department? Or for this department? Go ahead, Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's really not about any of the departments. I'm just wondering why we've glossed over the whole executive summary without getting some information and maybe have some discussion on some of that. Just wonder why we're glossing over that without getting,
We're not glossing over it. We're all required to read it before we come. Instead of having
Right.
them reread or re-go through each of those areas, we can focus on having discussion about anything we wanted to discuss. I mean, if you want each department head for each area to give a highlight of what they're doing, if you prefer this, does that council prefer that? I'm getting some no's. Go ahead, Councillor Tadman.
I'm satisfied with the way you're doing it, because if anything jumps up at me, that's where I'd like to ask that particular department head.
I mean, the whole
question.
idea is that we are free to ask whatever questions we want. If we're concerned about anything, ask the questions. But
all right.
okay, everyone's content to move on. Go ahead, Councillor Tadman.
Maybe the fire chief could refresh my memory on the new pumper. I did read about it, and where it says carry over from 2020. Could you explain that particular purchase is coming out of reserves, correct?
Through your worship, yeah. So we've started with a preliminary, but it takes over a year and a half to build a pumper. So we haven't made any payments or anything on it. So that is one that was approved last year, and we're just carrying it over until it's final, and we'll make payments at certain areas.
All right, so it's not a new item. It's from last year. We'll put it in reserve and we'll pull it back out. So the budget looks high, but when you pull that out, it's already was budgeted for this year. Go ahead.
That particular truck is borrowing from reserves.
Yes.
So I think when we look across the top, there is a line that says borrowed
Yep.
from reserves or external. And so that's not coming out of reserves, but actually borrowing from reserves
Okay.
to be repaid.
I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Bateman.
I was just going to go back to the 3/4 ton truck, the 2008. What would be the plan for the existing 3/4 ton? Because 250,000 kilometers isn't overly old. Is the goal to sell that, or the other one in addition, will you go up to 3 trucks?
Did you want to comment on it?
Through you, the Deputy Mayor. Yeah, we would like to keep that in the fleet of the fire department, just as a vehicle that we can transport back and forth to the training center in Quinte West for our folks to go back and forth in, instead of their personal vehicles, cut down on costs for their own personal vehicles.
Okay, makes sense. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Just to confirm, so we currently pay mileage to the volunteers to travel back and forth to the training center?
Correctly, if a vehicle is not available.
Thank you.
Councillor Anderson?
I just wonder if the use of that would add up, considering insurance, maintenance, all those things that you actually mentioned in your request for a new vehicle. I would personally think that if by looking at what kind of mileage you've had to go to Trenton for those type of events, would add up to that before and make a decision based on that. To keep an old truck around, I think it's time to move it on, absolutely. But to keep it parked and taking up space, it might just not be feasible and the right decision. So would you think about that, or have you thought about that?
Roger that. Thank you. Through the Deputy Mayor. Yeah, we were looking at just the training, but also other things such as fire prevention through town, with the volunteers taking it to fire prevention events, taking it up to Gravenhurst to take the courses up there, and to as a general service truck for the fire department when the other trucks are not available.
So you're saying it makes sense to keep it on the road is cost-wise?
Currently, yes.
Okay, because that's really what you're asking was, does it make sense?
Yeah, if somebody's did a little in-depth look at it, because insurance is what it is. The vehicle seems tired. Might not be reliable to go to Gravenhurst. I don't know, but there's a reason to move it on, and it's probably because it's tired. So I'm thinking we should move it on. But anyhow, that's just my opinion. I respect the chief's decision on the value of it, the value of its use, not the value of it, and to get rid of it. To go back to Councillor Bateman, I imagine if we were to get rid of it, it'd go through the normal government process to get rid of used vehicles or obsolete vehicles. So you shook your head, yes? Okay.
Okay, so we're going to carry on asking if there's any questions about this area. We'll do some more debating later on. Anyone else? Fire department? Okay. So next we have Public Works. Public Works building, we have 393,000. Any questions on Public Works? Go ahead, Councillor LeBlanc.
I have two questions, Deputy Mayor. The one is the asset management carryover for the software. Want to know if that's been ordered or completed. And the other one is the municipal facility condition assessment from 2020. Is that a study that's ongoing or to be new? A new study that's to be done on our facilities?
Preston?
Through your worship. Yes, these are all carryover projects. So the asset management plan was just awarded. So a notice should go for that shortly. And then the software is a follow-up to what that plan recommends. And the condition for the building assessment hasn't been done yet, but we're going to be starting that in the first quarter. So they'll evaluate all of our buildings and give us a condition assessment, what needs to be replaced, what we need to budget for in the future to start building reserves for, you know, say a roof for this type of building, that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. So we have Public Works equipment at 360,000 for a couple of vehicles. Questions? I don't see any questions. And then next we have the guide rail. Is that something separate again? Yes. So the guide rail as well at 53,000. Questions on that? Okay. And then we have some stormwater capital for a culvert on Applewood of 200,000. Okay, everyone's following along. We're all good. Everyone's so quiet. Okay, next we have road construction. This is always a big one. 3,272,694. Discussion, questions? I'm gonna go with the mayor and then with the councillor.
Thank you, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I guess I'm a bit concerned on the on how light we are on urban roads in the 2021 budget, and I've been hopeful that we would see as a council the urban roads plan, the suggested plan that we heard about last year, that would be coming forward, and the rural roads. Is it?
It's in the back. It's all in the back of the binder.
My apologies.
You know who read it?
It's the first page into that section.
I'm going to be quiet now.
Did you want to read it over and ask questions, or you're good? Okay.
I read
Go ahead, Councillor.
Yes, I agree with the mayor, deputy mayor. I agree with the mayor on infrastructure inside inside the township or the main built up area. Two roads that I thought that would be here would be Wallace Drive and Marina Drive that need resurfacing, recrowning to be done. And they're very short roads because they end up by being an ice rink in the wintertime. I don't see them in the future plan, even to 2027, they're not there. So I was wondering when they were going to be there.
Through your worship. Unfortunately, we're having some technical difficulties tonight. So we actually produced a map. And on that map, it physically illustrates all the roads that need to be done. And then there's a sidebar to it of the cost for those roads. So all of these roads, there's a number of them on there, but we consider them now needs. So we sat down and said, if we had an unlimited pot of funds, what would we fix and what do we need to fix? So we developed this list. We used the most recent tender that we issued for Sanford Street to develop some estimated costs for different types of roads, whether they're urban, industrial, or rural. And that list today, if we were to reconstruct everything we need to, totals about $47 million of our now needs. So Wallace and Marina are on those roads, but are they a priority? Probably not, based on what we can spend. We should be focusing on roads that have the failing infrastructure underneath, old water mains, leaky water, sanitary sewers, or storm, that sort of thing. And yeah, so when you go through the 6-year plan, that's based on, a more realistic of what we can actually afford given our tax base. And the list, and I can send it to everybody tomorrow morning so that everybody has that map and you can see the list and the numbers that go with it. But they're quite large numbers that we're against. And if I have to choose to spend next year's money on rebuilding the main artery into the industrial park that's failing, and mud and clay, and everybody's seen it. It all pumps up every spring and it's failing pretty badly. That's the road where I would target our money that we have to spend versus, some secondary roads that don't require a lot of maintenance at this time.
Thank you. It's frustrating when it comes to roads. I've had a lot of complaints about Wallace and Marina. I understand. I mean, they are flooded over in the wintertime and in the spring. And this is a hard discussion for us to have. We really have to balance things out, and it's so difficult because we don't have the funds to spend to fix all the roads that we want to fix. So did you have a follow-up question that you wanted to add, Councillor LeBlanc?
If I could, Deputy Mayor.
And then I'll go to the other side of the room or wherever's
On
next.
the things when you look at your plan, the one that aggravates me as a councillor is Telephone Road. That we're paying to repair that road for $963,000, basically, which was damaged by trucks going to the dump.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to pay to take it over. I sooner try to keep on negotiating with the county to get some repairs out of there. I know that the mayor is working on that heavily. But to use some of those funds or borrow the funds to fix those two roads, because people can't even walk to their sidewalks. They end up by being an ice rink because they're settling and there's only a single code. And I'm not saying to redo all the storm sewers and sanitary sewers because there are ditches there, but basically resurface the roads and bring them so they have a crown, because right now they have no crown.
Did you want to comment on Telephone Road or anything like that?
I do, actually. Thank you. I'm equally frustrated with the Telephone Road story. You know that, Councillor LeBlanc. Staff were also looking at an opportunity to perhaps surface street that road as if it were a regular, rural road, and ask the county or demand that the county not run those waste trucks along that. Have we gotten anywhere with that? Have we been told that's not a possibility?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think Preston and I'll maybe do a tag team here. We have gotten together with technical staff and the CAO at the county to talk a little bit about uploading and downloading county roads and municipal roads and county structures and municipal structures back in late July. And we indicated that we wanted to try and get together on a monthly basis to understand what trade-offs that there might be. So trade-offs might be Telephone Road, it might be the bridge that was not replaced. Most recently, there's been discussion with respect to part of the downtown core going to the county versus as it is currently with the municipality. So there's been some high-level discussions with regard to trade-offs. And with each trade-off, there's a dollar factor that comes along with that. Certainly, we talked a little bit about John Street and the extension of John from the main drag down to 64 with a bridge going over as has been identified within our strategic plan. So we've started that discussion. We certainly talked around the whole issue of Telephone Road and talked about trading that off to the county. They seem to be not interested in doing so. We indicated to them that we had looked at a number of different designs, full design that I think that we had estimated would be plus or minus $1.7 million. And with by expanding the width of the road, and if we chose to go with the existing width and lowered the speed limit, we had an opportunity to redesign to the tune of about $963,000. That's the number that you're seeing today. The county had no interest in assuming that road, and we're fine with the design, however lesser that it might be. They're fine with going with reduced speed limit and also the existing width. The decision that we have to make in the future is with respect to the speed that we're going to allow on that road or that section of the road, and are we going to continue to allow heavy traffic on it or not? And that's a decision to be made by council. And if we want the heavy trucks to go up and down 30 and 26, we can so direct that in the future. But that's a future decision that we're to make.
No, everything the CIO said is correct, and that's where we stand at this point in time. The design is almost complete, but if we change the surface, then that's all we're changing on the design is the type of surface, whether it's 2 lifts of hot mix asphalt or 3 lifts of surface treatment.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Anderson?
Doing what you have in plan now, how long would that road last based on the type of traffic that's on it now? I'm thinking a little outside the box here. I just want to know how long we could, before you would be doing that road again.
Well, the 2 different programs have very different life cycles. So if we were to go to hot mix asphalt, we're going to hope and pray that we get 30 years out of it before we have to resurface it. If we go to surface treatment, given the traffic on that road, we'll probably have to surface treat it every 5 to 6 years just to keep the surface layer and the wearing course there so that the lifespan of the base can be realized.
So in keeping with our strategic plan, if some development were to happen up along there, we'd want a good road, wouldn't we? I'm talking long-term as well.
That would involve some predicting of the future, but given our needs right now, surface treatment would be suitable for that road if we can eliminate the truck traffic from that stretch of road.
And so the bottom line, that sounds like the simplest solution based on what we've got to work with, since the county doesn't want to be part of it.
It's a solution. I don't know if it's the simplest solution because there's other parties involved that, use that as a trucking route and have for quite some time.
So definitely a discussion for another time as far as whether or not we're going to limit traffic on that road or heavy truck traffic. See who it all affects. But Councillor Rowley, you had a question.
I do. Thank you. First, thanks, Preston, for the explanation as to why we're doing what we're doing. I went back to look at our 2017 roads needs study. And some of the roads that we're doing now, they've got the 5 to 10 year out project. And I know you said it comes down to money, but at the end, and I also look at this page here that you gave us, page 12 of the summary, where we're only doing a half a kilometer of asphalt this year. I find that concerning because we're getting farther and farther behind. I know it's a money thing, but it's still a big concern to me as to we're going to stay behind the 8 ball. And at some point, we're going to need to catch that up. And when we do, it's going to be a much bigger increase than the 2 or 3% that we're looking at right now. I think we're shortchanging ourselves and the municipality.
Thank you. Councillor Bateman.
I was just going to go back to Telephone Road, and it's probably, Mayor, you might be able to answer it best. Is there any appetite at the county, if not just for trading off roads, for helping with that road, because it is so heavily utilized with the waste facility trucks? And as our urban population grows, I think we have to factor in the number of trucks, because the number of trucks on there now is not going to be the number of trucks on there in 5 years the way Brighton's growing. And we all know, and we've debated that, and we've been on Zoom calls, this county has implemented their development charge, which has been earmarked for infrastructure. I would consider this a county infrastructure need. So maybe that could be approached at the county, that they cough up some, because that's infrastructure in Brighton. Sure. But all these trucks, they're not just Brighton trucks that are coming. All our municipalities are growing. So that's going to increase the traffic.
Unfortunately, the county does not consider it a county infrastructure project, even though it's primarily county contractors that are using that road and putting the the gears to that road. And keeping in mind, of course, that back in the late 90s, the county put some significant money into upgrading that road for the purposes of that project as a one-time only. And we did find that contract, didn't we, Mr. Castleman? So we did find the contract that said it would be a one-time only shot. And that's what the county's kind of hanging their hat on.
Councillor Tideman.
But they will be coming to speak to us at sometime soon, and certainly we could speak to them a little more urgently, maybe.
I think that would be wise.
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mayor.
My question, Mr. Parkinson, through the Deputy Mayor, is if we were to, instead of putting the two lifts of asphalt on Telephone Road, if we were to triple Surface Street Telephone Road, what, if any, are the cost savings?
We did look at that quite some time ago, and I believe the number was in the area of 500,000 between the two different surfaces.
Is that a $500,000 savings?
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion at this point, or not really discussion, questions? We'll deliberate later. Any more questions at this point to clarify? Go ahead, Councillor Rowley.
Just to the mayor's question, so we'll spend 500,000, but we'll lose lifetime as well, right? I mean, if we spend 900,000, we'll get several more years than if we spend 500,000, we'll be doing it again in a few years and probably at 700,000, right? These things don't go down in price.
Yeah, it's a different upfront cost for sure, because it's more asphalt money now versus later. But yeah, we'll increase our maintenance budget for surface treatment, because we will have to surface treat that road more regular than our other surface treatment program or roads.
So just to follow up to that, so in 5 years, if we have to surface treat again, we don't have to put 3 lifts on, right? It's just going to be.
No, they would be considered just maintenance, and then we would put a lift on of surface treatment, just 5/8 stone, every probably 5 years, just to keep the surface wear course up and keep it smooth and keep it sealed.
So it's not going to cost us 500,000 every 5 years necessarily.
No, it would be more, maybe like 150,000 or something to surface treat that road.
Okay, just so we have clarity when we're discussing that. Go ahead, Councillor Bateman, and then Anderson.
Just a question for Preston, just for knowledge sakes. The lifespan of the roads that are listed, is that based on just a generic number, or is that changes for each road based on vehicular amount of travel on it? So then you'd have to factor in growth and stuff. or is it just a generic number?
Through your worship. It's a generic number, but it's based on, it's kind of an average for everything. So you do an analysis of the road, and if it has a high level of truck traffic or heavy traffic, then you build the base and you build the asphalt wearing courses to support that load. So typically you're still hoping for that generic 25-year lifespan out of the asphalt.
You mentioned a while ago at a council meeting that Marina Drive and Wallace were on a schedule, and maybe it's on that one that we didn't see tonight. I thought it was a lot sooner than later, and in fact, and also Harbor Street, I believe that's going to come up somewhere along the road, and that portion of the west end of Harbor Street, that was also discussed at a meeting here too. So where are we, do you recall those?
Through your worship. Yes, I do. The conversation was around pre-design and getting those roads tender ready. So in the next couple of weeks, there'll be a tender release for the pre-engineering design of Harbor Street. Wallace and Marina are included in that design because there's some stormwater considerations we have to give to those intersections and the more capacity to store water in those areas. So they'll be part of that design. And then we'll at least have the design ready and an estimated cost for the future to plan for and to budget for as part of the asset management plan.
Okay, oh, that's good. Thank you.
So what you're saying is they're not in the works for next year, but if we do the pre-design, it's much easier for us to put them in for subsequent years.
Correct.
Okay. Councillor Tadman.
Thank you. Just a quick point with the interest rates low, we could always, since we are falling behind, think about borrowing for some of these roads too, before we're finished negotiating where we're going to cut and where we're going to spend.
Okay. On that note, Linda, do you have an idea of where, interest rates, whether I know they're low. Are we looking, as a municipality, looking at even lower interest rates at this point too? An idea of what we're at, or we would be?
I did include a summary of our debt management in the executive summary.
Yep.
And it does show where we are as far as current borrowing and also what we're anticipating for 2021. And the MBBR is going to take up a great deal of our borrowing power.
Okay.
And we do have an annual repayment limit each year that's provided to us by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. We're nowhere near our debt limit, but it's that desire to pay back, because when we do borrow, it's going to impact you every year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that balance that council wants to establish in what we can do now and how we're going to afford to pay for it.
And so, and even if we have low interest rates now, I mean, you don't generally lock in interest rates for 5 or for 20 years, right? So at one point, we're going to be looking at a higher rate. So certainly a discussion to have, but we have to be aware of or cognizant of those other items, especially the MBBR as well. Okay, go ahead, Councillor LeBlanc.
Through your deputy mayor to Linda, in the binder you had a table of borrowing that we could borrow from the province, and the 5% they were charging for, like, from 11 to 34 million. Is that a good interest rate?
No, that's a high interest rate. That is unfortunately the table that they provide to us through the province. So I don't know how they come about calculating that. It's a document that we receive from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing each year. Interest rates are much lower than that. And we can lock them in for up to 30 years with Infrastructure Ontario through borrowing through them. And the interest rates are quite low. I think around 2%. That last time I talked to them. So I don't have current day numbers, but they were fairly low. Lower than what we're paying right now in some of our borrowing. That's for sure.
So we can lock in with them for 30 years, is that what you said?
Yes, we can.
And
And the longer we lock in, the little higher the interest rate
yeah,
goes.
that makes sense. And do we have a limit as to what we can borrow from them?
I'm sure that our financial statements would be taken into consideration. Our annual repayment limit will be taken into consideration.
Okay, no, okay. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Bateman.
Just another one for Preston for clarification. I see Loyalist Drive is on there and Prince Edward Street, I think, and this might be for the mayor on this section. Is that not scheduled to be done by the county in 2021, 2022? They kind of tie in together. I was just thinking from a cost saving standpoint, if the county's going to be doing Prince Edward Street, do the other one at the same time.
Generally, I would do that because yes, we are planning to do in conjunction with the county, do Prince Edward Street in 2022. But the road is in such bad shape that at times it's hard to get delivery trucks into Vanderland. The road is tore up so bad and it gets so unstable. Yeah, it's just typically I would do that, but we will do it up to that junction point and then carry on with the next construction to do that intersection phase.
When Prince Edward's scheduled? Is
My understanding, the county's planning to do Prince Edward Street in 2022,
2022?
which is why you also see in the 6-year plan that the municipality has water and sanitary planned to be budgeted for 2022 along Prince Edward Street as well.
Okay, anybody else? Next, we have Parks and Rec. We have the arena at 217,500. Any questions about the arena capital? Councillor Anderson?
I haven't seen anything on the outdoor rinks until now, this 17.5. To what extent are we designing and building those rinks? Or perhaps you can, I know initially we were hoping for it to cost being a little lighter, and we were only talking one at one time, but I have no problem with it. It's just, I just wonder, and spending that kind of money, will that help carry over into the future? Is it product that can be used for future rinks, or is it just?
So this is a capital expenditure,
one
so I
time?
imagine it is, but we're going to have Jim answer that.
So if you can answer that.
Yeah, this is a product that I've come across. It's used in other municipalities. There's 2 of them in that budget, so they're about 8,600 a piece. And what it comes with is a heavy-duty liner. Comes with a board system, bracings, and capping. And what I'm looking at is like 100 by 86 pad, which is what they recommend for a municipality. And it can be assembled in 4 hours by volunteers, and you can reuse it every year like you do a pool.
Great, sounds like a great
It's
idea.
all high quality, resin and that. So that's why I'm looking at it, because believe it or not, I even got a phone call today asking me when they'd be ready.
I'm sure you have.
Well, thanks.
Does that answer your question?
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on that section? Councillor Bateman?
Just when it says north parking lot, we're talking right out front, Jim?
Yeah, I'm talking the front and the side. So basically it would be an RFP with that idea, and then whatever else we can do for that amount in this parking lot.
Go ahead. Actually, I'm going to go with Councillor Rowley first and then to Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Pickleball court, I'm assuming that's an outdoor pickleball court. Do we not use the arena here in
We're
the
not actually
summertime?
technically on that section quite yet. We're taking it section by section. I mean,
Oh, so I'm down one too far.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you don't. So we'll just finish up the arena. Did you have a question on the arena? Yep, go ahead.
After last council meeting, it was raining so hard. I think I parked right in the deepest spot of the front, and it went right over the top of my shoe. So I'm estimating 4 inches, 3 inches. Will paving clear that out so I can park there without being concerned?
Yeah,
We
we'll be
saved that
looking at
spot
all
for you.
that. That's Lake King Edward out there.
It's not just pavement, it's
No.
pavement with, and we're
Yes.
gonna move that water somewhere else. All
Yeah.
right, all right.
Did you want to go ahead, CAO?
So my only comment would be, perhaps we might want to turn our mind to buying some rubber boots for you. Might be a little cheaper.
It would be, yeah. Okay. So we're good with that. Next, we're going into our parks section, 488,500. Go ahead, Councillor Rowley, with your question.
Get back to the pickleball court.
Yep.
Thank you. So I'm assuming this is an outdoor court somewhere, as we have used the ice pad inside for pickleball, right? Indoors.
Yes,
Where's-
it's an outdoor pad, and we're looking at locating it down in Gosport, Hilda Montgomery Park. Now, pardon? It's 3 courts, actually.
Yeah,
got a photo
yeah,
can
I know it's more.
distribute. There's 3 courts that'll be in it,
Okay.
and it'll be just to the west of the shelter there. You already have fencing on 3 sides, so you'll only have to fence one side of it. And it has enough space for an 85 by 80 spot there where you can put the 3 pads in. And that way they can play all day long, evening, from May 1st right through to now,
Okay.
which they won't do in the arena.
Do you have follow-up?
Yeah. So I'm assuming this has been in conversation with the pickleball club. They prefer to be there than inside, or are they going to,
Yes.
is that to be used out here too?
No,
no,
it'll be
just-
outside.
Okay.
And do they have like a club membership and regular numbers now?
Yes, they will. They will going forward, but I know they do now. They have a membership for each person, I think.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Tadman.
I've been talking to them a few times. In fact, every time I go for a walk, I get yelled at. And I
walking.
think more and more they realize that council does support them. I think some of them felt that they should be able to take over the tennis part of the tennis courts, and that for other reasons we didn't go along with that. But the way they have this measured out now, I have the map of the new, not the one that Jim gave. Since then, they've come up with another one, correct, Jeff? And it sits very nicely in there. They have formed a board. And I think the one thing that I would ask of them is to have a real commitment to bring young people, get a real interest in young people to play, because it's quite a fun game. And I think young people would enjoy it as well as older people. They have played every day except for rainy days. They're there every day, including Sundays.
So they're already there. This is so basically we're just improving upon what they have now, because what they have is not much there right now,
Well,
is it?
no, and they've got a lot of people that want to play but can't.
Yeah,
But this gentleman was telling me with the 3, they could run tournaments. And
that'd be good.
he said it would be the biggest pickle court in Eastern Ontario if the 3 were to go in. So I find the 100,000 a bit steep, but then maybe the paving, I guess, costs a lot of money. But as far as leveling, it's pretty level there and well drained.
Did you want to comment, Jim, on that?
Yeah, I was going to mention, I mean, it is a great location because it is level. And it will allow the baseball field to be used somewhat. We're not touching the infield and, most of the outfield to be left. And additionally, where they are right now inside the fence, which used to be a basketball court, we can reestablish a basketball court in there for the kids.
That'd be good. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I note that 90,000 of the 125 is coming from development charges. And I can't frankly think of another parks project that demonstrates what development pressures can show us, quite like pickleball. Pickleball came to us because of a new population. So well done in the budgeting process here. Thank you.
Thank you. So Councillor LeBlanc.
Just to add, through you, Deputy Mayor, just to add to what Mary Tadman said, I spoke with the committee 3 times. And yes, they would be able to bring tournaments. They would coincide with Coburg and the one that they have in Belleville and bring more tournaments, bring people here. And also the young teenage boys and the girls that play basketball. I've been there a couple of nights. I've talked with them. They would be excited because the court now restricts them and how they can play basketball. They'd love to see it expanded so they could have a full thing. So it makes wellness and health of our community a lot better. And it's a good way of bringing people into Gosport and bringing the community together. And I would support this very strongly.
Okay, Councillor Bateman, did you have your hand up?
I was
I
going to
thought you
move on to
did.
something else. I support the pickleball court as well, and I'm anxious for it to get built because I do believe the skateboard park's underway. I think there was a promise way back that the mayor and the CAO were going to don skateboards, so I'll be anxious to see you on the pickleball court, Councillor Tadman.
Can't
I was
wait.
going to ask about the splash pad control pad to Mr. Miller. Is this the first time it's had to be replaced? Because I think
No.
it's been done a few times, hasn't it?
We replaced it 2 years ago, and then we ended up having to get a little bit of work done this coming year. It's just with the age of it, dampness is taking over because it's underneath, like it's in the ground in a vault, so to speak, but it's got a lot of dampness. So we're just going to try to raise it up in a cabinet like we have the rest of our electrical, and that should solve it.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, because I was told if it was raised up, it would alleviate that problem because it's kind of down at the water level.
Yeah, so that's what we'll do.
Councillor Tadman.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to remind everybody that Gosport is God's country.
Yeah, we know.
And now the motel is being converted into short-term, not condos as everybody in the public thinks. So there's short-term for fully furnished accommodations. The restaurant's doing well, and the other end, a couple have bought 4 cottages and they're converting them. So it's the place to be. So I'm sure that people that come to the short-term place will enjoy the
I
pickleball
will.
too.
Do we still need your permission in order to enter Gosport, or is that good now?
Yeah, you do.
Okay, I thought so. Okay, any other questions on the Parks Department
one more.
or that area? Go ahead.
One more. I just noticed under the 1-ton truck, and if I flip back to the fire department, if the decision was made not to keep that one, is that one able to be utilized in another department? Because you're averaging 19,000 kilometers a year on the fire truck based on the 2008 and the 252,000 kilometers. Would you use it more than 19,000 kilometers a year?
No, but it is starting to cost us the last couple of years quite a bit of money. Oh, I'm not sure. I don't even know what they have. So all I know is we need to replace what we have with something newer that's a lot more reliable. And
You will be trading yours in or whatever.
we will be putting it on gov deals like we do with all our
Okay.
access equipment.
Okay, next we have the community center for 35,000. Any questions for Jim on that? Marinas, we don't have anything. And so that's total Parks and Rec. Thank you. Next we go into planning and we have 125,000 there. Any questions for Paul for planning? Go ahead, Mary, and then,
Councillor Tadman.
sorry, Councillor Tadman.
Could planning please tell me what secondary plan means?
Through the Deputy Mayor, Council, the secondary planning is just a level of planning where we look at long-range land uses and infrastructure such as roads and try and lay out a map of where things are going to go over 25 years. So we look at our population growth, and we look at our long-range needs in terms of both residential and employment lands, and the infrastructure needed to support that at a high level of detail, and put that into some, a long-range map that people can follow. It's very helpful because when we please consult with proponents on, for example, plan of subdivision, we really don't want to have those discussions about whether or not there should be an
Paul,
internal
can you
road.
pull your mic a little bit closer?
Is that better? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't really want to have those conversations at the time of a plan of subdivision application. Should a road go internal through that land or not? And those things should have been kind of worked out at a neighborhood scale before those kinds of discussions. So secondary plan helps streamline the approvals quite a bit.
Okay, thank you. And this is will be partially supported through the development charges as well. As much as I hate playing for more plans, I get it. It would actually, we have to be careful because we're growing so quickly as well that things are, that we grow well in the right directions, and we don't put things where they shouldn't be. So I think it is a good idea. Councillor Rowley, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to say I want to support this as well. I know this was conversation that came out of our mature neighborhood study when we talked about that earlier this year. And it just seems like good managed planning, something that maybe we've kind of helter-skeltered a little bit over the last few years. So I think definitely this is a much better way to kind of control maybe what we do and where we do it in the future. It's a good idea.
Any other questions? Councillor LeBlanc.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, for the planner. When you look at a secondary plan, when we do rural expansion and lots, we're using a lot of our road frontage. In the secondary plan, are you going to be looked at shared drivers like they do in other municipalities, so we can get more build in our rural area without having to use all our road frontage? Is this part of this? And is it also the one that you promised I would have by the 15th of November?
Through the Deputy Mayor, that level of detail doesn't normally find its way through a secondary plan. It can refer to that type of arrangement through policy, but won't be something so specific as looking at each road segment and saying, here's going to be a shared entrance. But we can make reference to that type of option through policy, encouraging that a mutual drive is, mutual entrance is supported. And then at the time of a development application, we would get down into the design details on a site-by-site specific basis at that point.
Okay, next is the industrial park. We have expenditure of $266,098. Any questions? Councillor Bateman.
I see it's coming out of reserves, but could you explain the consulting for wetland? Is that for the lots that were deemed? I think we have 2 or 3 lots that are deemed wetland, and that's to try to get them out from under that.
Who would like to answer that?
Well, through the deputy, I'll just speak to the wetland part. Ben and I have worked closely on that together. And I did do a walk over the site with a biologist with Cambium, who was involved in the project at earlier stages that Ben might be able to help me out on. And the conclusion of all that field work, we went right into the thick of things. The conclusion of that field work looks promising to reduce the amount of total wetland. There were some surprises there by the biologists, thinking that there would be something based on what we saw in the air photos, and what everyone was looking at, assuming it to be wetland, it turned out not to be wetland. So, and the analysis was pretty detailed, like core soil samples, and it was a great deal of scrutiny was given to it. So my impression, the impression I was left with, there will be some wetland perhaps identified by the biologist, but how much is it going to be so significantly reduced that it's not going to have that same level of priority for protection? I don't really know, because that report's still pending, and we still need to work with the Conservation Authority in terms of how they're going to work with that new information. And that's, other than that, the industrial park is something that Ben has a better handle on than myself.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, through the deputy mayor to council, I guess one of the first things I was tasked with about a year ago was to get this figured out. And the more I delve into it, and I've been fortunate enough to create a team now that Paul's here, and the more money that you realize that it's going to cost to work with someone like Jewel Engineering, who keeps moving us along, but at a significant cost, and the hours do pile up. And if we want to get these lands back and we want to eventually develop them, there's a cost to doing that business as well. We're hopefully going to get to the point with Lower Trent where we, can get to a hearing. I'm forecasting potentially some application fee costs. I'm forecasting maybe some legal fees, and who knows? There could be more studies over the course of the year here that we have to jump through to present our case even further to the Conservation Authority.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Councillor Rowley?
This isn't about the wetland. This is about signage. And I know this is just pertaining to the industrial park signage as based on this summary. However, I'm wondering if at some point before this whole budget process is over, there's more signage concerns for me than just what's at the industrial park. There's certain ones around town, whether they need to be replaced or just torn down, that if we could look at signage across the municipality in a bit. I'm thinking over by the high school, there's been some that have directed people to businesses and places that are no longer here. And some of the signs need maybe a little bit of lipstick. So I'm just wondering if through this budget process, if sometimes somebody on staff could bring a report complete signage that we have in the municipality to see if there's any cost involved with that.
So who would be our signage across the municipality staff member? Bob? I'm asking you who it would be.
Gee, thanks, Bob. Yeah, so we've started with our signage and we've really focused on regulatory signage to keep us legal with minimum maintenance, the Highway Traffic Act, that sort of thing. The next phase of this, and maybe Ben's already working on it too, but it is the directional signages for our business. A lot of them are very dated and bad shape, but that's kind of the next phase. The cost, I wouldn't think would be so dramatic that we should waste time or use staff time on, analyzing and doing a report. I would rather just proceed. And then if we go a little over budget next year, then we'll just try to save someplace else so that we can get it done. But it's just, labor and some signage fees. But there's not too many of them out there, so I don't think it'd be a substantial capital cost.
So what you're saying is this is something that's kind of on the mind of staff anyways. And so we do have this 5,000 here, probably because there is no signage yet there, really, is there?
There's this. Would you like me to answer?
Yes. Not you.
There is a sign on the side of sort of by the license bureau there.
Yep.
I'm more along the lines of thinking of an all-encompassing sign that, I don't know, if you look around a couple of the industrial parks or the commercial kind of parks in Quinte West, you'll see they're fairly wide. They list every single business that's in that park, and they're very visible from the main artery. That's kind of the concept I was going for. And to Councillor Rowley's point, I'm when we go through the design to get this made, it's going to have to be very critical that we remain consistent afterward in a sort of consistent design work. I guess I'm also thinking about our newly formed Economic Development Committee. And this would be a perfect sort of project, whether it's in 21 or 22, but in the next year or two, to look at that wayfinding signage as well.
Yeah, I think that committee would be great. Great committee to identify the need for the signs instead of having staff have to do it maybe. But certainly we want, so when you have these signs, we know how businesses sometimes come and go, and sometimes they're here for years and years and years. These new signs, are you able to easily change? Okay, that's good, because we need to be able to easily change things out and add a new one when need be.
Yeah, we're going to work with whoever would be the successful bid and making sure they're removable. It's kind of a slates or whatever. Yeah.
Right. But I agree, we do need to focus on all of Brighton, not just the industrial park, but obviously this is his budget, so he's brought it forward. But so I would love to see that committee do that.
Do I have a follow-up?
You
Just
go
just
ahead.
a quick
Yep.
one. If I could just then make a suggestion without maybe adding dollars to the budget or whatever, could we just have staff then go around and take down the signs that are outdated, that we just, I'm sure there's many that drive by. There's a couple along Highway 2 that still show, before the whistling duck, whatever it was, Duels down there. Some of them are they're still out there. If they could just, instead of replacing, if they could be just taken down.
Okay. I'm going to go with, sorry, what was that?
I think Ben wanted to answer Councillor Rowley's query.
Okay.
That's okay. We did this summer do a bit of an inventory on what was outdated. We did have Public Works remove the outdated businesses. For the most, I believe they're all up to date now. But what it has done is it's left gaps in between the slates, and it's not the most attractive now.
Okay. So I think what we're getting is it's in process. So definitely that committee can certainly keep up on it, but I think we can move on unless there's more questions on this area. Go ahead, Councillor Bateman.
I was just going to ask about the industrial sign, because I had mentioned it once before, that's on Prince Edward Street. When they do the updating of the sign, can we look at indicating where Sharp Street is? Because it just says Industrial Park, Loyalist Drive. And I can't stress enough how many people stop and ask me where they can drop off their water bills, because not everybody knows where Sharp Street is. And that's been so developed down there, not just all the stuff you mentioned for the businesses that are now down there, but for people who want to go down and pay their water bill or their tax bill at that location. Nobody knows where it is. And there's no signage that indicates Sharp Street. And you can take any number of turns if you've never been down there.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes. Through you, Deputy Mayor, in your comment, you said we got to look at all of Brighton. So in frequenting Codrington event, their sign is falling down that they can't use, and possibly that's one of the signs that we should be looking at. I've already talked to the Linda Whitfield about how to do that in that sign, and what it was. They were trying to raise money between the committees, but it's a sign that could be used for economic development and making people aware that travel Highway 30, what is going on in downtown Brighton and also in the rural area. Mm-hmm. It's a sign that needs repair. It's in bad shape right now.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this area? Okay, let's move on to what's next. Next we have wastewater at $12,080,000, whatever. I can't even. It's too big of a number for us to talk about. So any questions? Of course, it's because we have the MBBR in there. Any questions on this area? No questions? Okay, so we're going to move on to the total, nothing in total water plant. Water distribution capital, $780,000. Questions from anyone? Okay. Okay, so that's the details of our capital budget. Let me just get myself sorted here. Did you have a question, Councillor Anderson?
So just on the water plant, booster station study. Would that study be done early enough in the year to have something done with the booster station? Are you is that referring to the water station on Pinnacle? No, it's not. Sorry. Where is that on here? Okay. So would that be anticipated that it could be completed next year?
The water modeling study?
The moving of the station on Pinnacle Street, the water.
Yes, so that's one of the key points in the water model study that we're doing right now. And it should be done probably early in 2021. And then we've earmarked in this budget, in the water budget, I believe, $490,000 to fund the drivers from that water modeling study, whether it be replacement of some mains somewhere, or additional mains, or the bulk water station. The priorities to be put before council whenever that study is done, and then council would have the decision on which project they want to move ahead with based on those funds.
So the 490 is nothing specific at this point because we don't know yet.
Correct.
Did that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? No? Councillor Bateman.
I think I already know the answer to it. I don't see anything for capital projects, so I'm assuming all capital projects in terms of stormwater ponds are complete, so maintenance would fall under operational.
Okay, are we good with capital questions? Councillor Rowley?
Thank you. Just one question, and I'm not a vehicle expert by no means. We talked about a truck for Parks and Rec and a truck for the fire department, and we're talking about a cube van. Is $40,000 enough money to buy a cube van when we're looking at 70 and 80,000 for the other trucks? Just asking the question. Are we buying new, or are we buying gently used, or are cube vans just cheap?
Through your worship, we're going to source a lately used vehicle for both of those van purchases.
Thank you. Okay, so we've asked our questions, and I think now we can go over, if we turn to the blue sheet, it's nice because it's just all in one sheet, and we've already had the discussions. If you go over to the 2021 column of expenditures, that'll be what we just looked at. Correct, Linda? So for general government, we have expenditures of 723,500. We've asked our question. We just need to give consensus whether or not we're okay with moving forward with these things, or suggestions as to something we might want to do different. Go ahead, Mayor, you can start.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. First, I want to thank staff for taking the direction of council quite seriously. Finding out what the construction price index was and adding 1% to it. You've quite successfully done this, all of you. Thank you very much for coming in with a 3% overall capital budget. I appreciate that. And I appreciate that we've not just done, construction price index. So my thanks to council for considering that additional 1%, because even though it's just 1%, we know that if we don't stay on top of this stuff, it very quickly falls behind. So that said, my questions are fairly basic, if I may, Deputy Mayor. And one of them is, I don't see that we've gone out to seek any specific grants for anything through this budget process, probably too early. But my assumption is, and I look for this to be asserted, that we will seek granting opportunities, that those projects that we may find have granting opportunities we would remove from borrowing or from reserves in order for us to take on that grant, those grants. That if council passes this capital budget the way it is, staff understands we're not saying go ahead and use all the money, but go ahead and go down the road, start the planning, and seek opportunities for monies at other levels of government. And I guess I'd look to the CAO for the assertion that that is in fact the case.
Absolutely.
Okay. Did you have any general comments about general government, or is that your comment? Well, that's good. That was nice and short. Go ahead, Councillor LeBlanc.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Just one thing I'd like to throw up, I'll jump on what Council Mary Tadman said, is that we probably should be looking, and for me, for infrastructure, for catching up on some of these things is, and probably lowering our mill rate, we should probably look at external borrowing to do more roads and to catch up. Otherwise, we're going to keep on falling behind. And if we can't raise our taxes because of COVID and everything, we can't let everything go into disarray. So we should probably look with staff, and probably council wanted to look at it, is some internal borrowing, 5, 8, 10, and to catch up on a lot of our roads and our infrastructure that needs to be done.
So
I
when
would
we get to
support that.
roads, that's when we're going to have that discussion. I want to go section by section and get a nod whether we're okay with it. So we're not discussing everything and not knowing where we're at. Okay, so
Not a problem, Deputy Mayor. I'm sorry.
So no, I just want general government. I want to know if we have a consensus on general government or if we've got a discussion that we need to have. Go ahead, Councillor Rowley.
I just want then a little bit of clarification, Deputy Mayor. If I say everything's good with general government, does that mean I'm approving what they're doing, which means at some point we can't add any more or take something away from a different department, or are we just satisfied? Because I would have some questions for staff pretty well in all departments then. So if you're looking to, are we approving this or are we just kind of receiving this is, I guess, where I'm going. Because we're going to be looking at this again, I hope at some point. Are we going to cut more or
Well,
add
the
more?
understanding I have is the reason why we're starting early is so that tenders can go out. So my understanding, yes, of course, we don't approve the full budget until later on, but I believe we're here to give our general consensus as to whether or not we're okay with this department. We're not going to come back and discuss the whole capital budget again, correct? Go ahead, Linda.
So the way that we set up the budget timetable, if council will remember, when it was presented originally, is tonight we were doing capital budget deliberations. And if needed, on the 3rd, we were going to meet again for capital budget deliberations and a resolution to council to approve the capital budget. So that's how you're getting that capital budget approved early, and we can get the tender documents done and get them out really early. So we were looking at approving the capital budget before we approve the rest of the budget.
But not tonight.
Well,
it's totally up to council whether it's tonight or you want to go to a second night on the 3rd. We have a second night scheduled for next week.
Well, may I ask a general question to all staff then?
Yeah, of course.
Because I'm wondering, and this isn't about, I know we have to look at operations, we have to look at everything, and we're looking at 3% here. I'm wondering if we've tied the hands. Was there any more did staff just kind of give us the basics, as Mary and Doug said here a few minutes ago, roads that need to be done? Are they just giving us exactly what we asked for? Or are there other details or urgent matters that because we've told them to come back with the minimal amount, that we should be looking at a few other things if staff deems them important?
So, so right now I'm looking for a consensus, but what we can do each time, you can ask, is the staff member who brought forward the budget, is there anything else we should be considering? That's a discussion we should be having. And I'm sure when it gets to roads, we're going to have that discussion, I would think, right? So, so here we are, we're on general government. Are you satisfied with that 723? Do we want to know if there's something more there that we haven't discussed? Councillor Tadman.
I said right from the beginning, with the times such as they are now, with so many people out of work, I voted against the 2% plus, and I believe because we have committed to having 2 different meetings, I don't think we should, I think we need to go home now and talk to people who will be in touch with us about this. And I like to have residents' viewpoints on this, so I don't want to sit here tonight cut because I have to make a decision where I would think that the cutting should be. Now, I have some ideas, but I don't want to express them at this point until this is the first time we've had an overall discussion. We've had a schedule that I thought we were coming, what's the date next week? Wednesday of this week?
No.
You mean the next
Yeah.
meeting, the 3rd of November, which
Yeah,
is
the
Tuesday.
3rd of November. So I don't, like, we never passed a budget other years until way
Well,
into
we're not
spring.
passing the budget, but we would always get a consensus
No,
after we've gone through. So
I know, but we're not in that big a hurry that I think that we could wait till the 3rd to go through this and. see
sure, I
where
mean,
everybody comes
it's
up with.
absolutely the will of council. So maybe we want to go through each area and ask staff if there's something that we haven't considered, or maybe that's so that we can all have, understand where we're at, and next week we can come back and discuss it all. Is that sound good? Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think we're looking at a pretty bare bones budget here at 3% for capital projects. And I would like to go through the departments and find out what was kept off the table.
Okay.
And what that would cost us. Or, where we would, what that would cost us and where we find the money. It becomes an exercise that we can talk about another time, but at least let us have the information as to what was removed from the wish list, if you will, so that we can have a sense of that. And then perhaps we can wrap it up, give all of that some consideration over the course of the next week, and come back and have that discussion during those deliberations on the 3rd.
Absolutely. Sounds like a good idea. Is everyone satisfied with that tonight? Just finding out a little bit more about each area. So we're going to start with general government. Is there anything that's been left off, anything that we've talked about as council and asked for before, but has been left off? Or is there anything that you wanted to add? Who would like to speak?
So what the clerk's department, the only other project that we were thinking of doing was the storage room downstairs and revamping the storage room, but we have to clean it out first. We've got a lot of maintenance that needs to be done to that room before we can change it into a records management room. That's where we stand with that. And there was going to be about, I don't know, about $12,000 to $15,000 to fix that room up.
Is there anything else in general government? Okay, let's look at the fire department. Oh, go ahead.
Question, because we're at 3%. And I know I wanted to ask it earlier, and I don't know that I read it in the summary, and maybe that was why I wanted to discuss some of it. Linda, what would 1% increase? How many thousands of dollars is? It's got to be 90 plus thousand, I think, this year. No.
Just one second. I had it somewhere and then I don't know where it is in this book. I'm sure I put it in here. It was somewhere around 94,000.
94.
Yeah. And I'm having technical difficulties tonight, so. Yeah, it was around $94,000 for 1%.
Okay. Fire department, is there anything that's been left off the wish list or taken, removed?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, one of the items that we're taking off is we have a side-by-side that we use for trails and wildland fires. One of the things taken off was a unit that goes on the back that would enable us to carry patients out of the woods or out of an area where we can't typically get with our trucks. The way that we have it set up now, we have to bring down the side-by-side with one vehicle and the trailer that we pull behind the side-by-side on another vehicle. So in essence, we're pulling two side-by-sides, they're the side-by-side and the four-wheeler together. Having the unit on the back would give us better capabilities for firefighting as well. Last time we used a side-by-side and it was on a skidoo trail in the winter, we had to use our Polar 75, which is our inflatable boat, and pull it behind this side-by-side. So that's one of the items that was taken out. They cost between $8,000 and $10,000.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that? Planning. Was there anything there that hadn't been considered?
Sure, thank you, Deputy, to the council. One of the items was putting money towards reserves for official plan and zoning bylaw updates. I know we had some consolidation with some updates in December 2019. But as you may be aware, the province has updated their Place to Grow Act and have given the counties so much time to update their official plans to be consistent with the Place to Grow Act plan, and bring out new growth projections, for example. So it's very core stuff that they're doing at that level. The county is expected to have their plan changed by 2022. And then the lower tier municipalities are expected to have their official plans updated in response a year later. To my experience, they're not always really strict about those timelines, but I think it would be very prudent to start putting in some reserves leading up to that undertaking. I don't think it would be a lot of money, since if we really had to, we'd stick with our current official plan instead of doing a major overhaul, and just do some major amendments to it to reflect the new county plan. So that was something that was taken away, just those contribution towards reserves. Because we're talking about background studies that go along with it, it can be a little bit pricey depending on the scope. I don't know what the outcome of the county process is going to be to make us respond to that. So giving a real accurate estimate this time is difficult, but something towards reserves would have been beneficial. The second thing,
How much towards reserves were you considering or would be appropriate?
I think in discussion with Linda, the director of finance, was maybe about 65,000 again, and then do that each year towards the year that we would to then commence the study. So it'd be about 180 in total would be probably a good purse to work with, and hopefully there'd be some money left over after the project's completed. The other one would be the zoning bylaw update. They are really very detailed driven, lots of public consultation engagement. There's lots of, they tend to be very time consuming projects. Again, our zoning bylaw is pretty good. So I wouldn't rate that as an urgency.
Okay.
The other thing we talked about secondary plans tonight, part of that will be environmental protection review. We have some experience now that the EP zoning is not necessarily all that accurate as verified by the Conservation Authority, and that has caused some issues. It would be good to see some improvement on that. So we'll speak with a remote sensing expert on that very topic early next week, and then I'll have a sense for whether or not we can incorporate that in the terms of reference for the secondary plans. It might be such that we can't, and we'll just go with what we have, and then on a development by development basis, they can review the EP designation. It tends to be very expensive and time consuming for everybody, so I preferably it would be done comprehensively. But I'm hopeful we can get that into the terms of reference for the secondary plans. And then Linda maybe can help me about what we're looking at doing for the DC update, the development charges bylaw update in response to the community benefits bylaws and studies. But that was on the list, and I don't remember what you did with it.
So that the development charges update was just to look at some of the projects that have come to light and also to take into consideration the changes that are coming in the Development Charges Act and then the community benefit program. So we were looking at $10,000 just for an update to our DC study. And then we were looking at approximately another $50,000 to do the community benefit and the parkland bylaw. Sorry.
Land dedication bylaw under section 42 of the act.
And we have not included it in the budget at this time. We're hoping that if we're going down that road in 2021, that we can include that as part of our DC collections and be able to fund it that way. So that's the wording that we had included in the budget here, was that we were looking at that in the future, just so council is aware. But we are looking at having that funded through growth, because it's a growth related type of study.
Just one last thing, maybe it might be better for Ben to speak to this as well. Sorry, I don't mean to put you in the spot, Ben. But the broadband, the rural broadband committee, there was some reference to maybe a budget item there might be available through the modernization funding, but we just didn't want to lose sight on that important project. But that would be pretty much it for capital.
Did you want to speak to at all, Ben, broadband, or do you have anything to add to it?
Just gauging by some of the numbers that were thrown around at our first committee meeting, I don't want to scare council, so no, I won't speak to that.
Okay. Next is the industrial park. Is there anything there that we wanted that hasn't been discussed, that has been taken off the table?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. Next is Public Works. Large category here. Is there anything here, Preston, that we haven't discussed that was taken off the table, or is there anything that council wants to ask about as far as roads and that sort of thing? We'll let Preston go first.
Just further to what I spoke to earlier, we have a huge linear infrastructure deficit, somewhere in the area of $47 million, just related to sewer, storm, water, and road surfaces. So I really couldn't pick one project out of that list. It would have to be analyzed because, just to judge all the needs, but any funds that could be put towards it could be greatly used.
Okay. Anything council wants to ask about? I know this is a large department, so if we're going to go home and think about it, we need to know what we're going home to think about. Is there certain roads, or do we want to look at adding something, or do some members of council want to look at adding anything? Go ahead, Councillor LeBlanc.
Deputy Mayor, through Public Works, Preston. If this council went and decided we would do external borrowing, do you have an amount in certain roads? I know you said they're all important, but certain key ones that would help the flow of traffic and better makes up and stuff. Which one do you have a number? Could you come up with a number by the 3rd of November?
I would like to send the list to council first thing in the morning because it includes some key areas. We have Main Street from Ontario to the border that should be upgraded because we have a 70-plus-year-old water main that feeds that subdivision out on the west end of town. We have the gateway to the park, Presqu'île Parkway, that's rapidly failing. We have Harbor Street that's in bad shape and it needs infrastructure upgrades and some stormwater upgrades. Prince Edward Street needs to be done in 2022 because the services are, their age, they're at their end of their useful life. There's Elizabeth Street that should be repaved with some service upgrades from Prince Edward Street all the way out to John Street, I guess. And it's just really the list is endless. There's more money we could put at sidewalks to get it done sooner. There's more money we could invest in sanitary infrastructure, water infrastructure. road surfaces all over the place. We're adequately funding our surface treating program, so we're in pretty good shape there. And as that starts to cycle through, we'll have less and less DST roads or double surface treating roads that we have to do. So there could be a potential savings in 6 to 7 years there, where we maybe can reduce that a little bit once we get out of the large reconstruction works. But yeah, there's really a tremendous list, and it is very difficult to pick a number or to pick a project that I would recommend any funding of, or any further funding of.
So I'm wondering if you could send the list, and next week we can make sure on our agenda we do have a discussion about roads. Is that satisfactory that we do actually have a specific discussion about that next time? Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would say affirmative to that, but I'm just one member of council. I'd also like to see from staff just a general outline of what happens if we go down the road of external borrowing for the purposes of road work, which I don't think we have typically done in the past. I guess we have with Dundas and some of the larger things. Yeah. So just what that's going to look like, because when we are talking about a $47 million infrastructure deficit just on those linear assets that Mr. Parkinson laid out, if we were to just invest an additional $1 million a year, we'd be at least 47 years out paying that. And I'm not taking into account inflation. So, we know we're $47 million behind the 8 ball. Do we want to be $47 million behind the 8 ball in terms of a bank account, or do we want to be $47 million behind the 8 ball in terms of crumbling infrastructure? And that's the question we need to wrap our heads around. We have a growing community. It's not going to get better by ignoring it. And I think we do need to have a difficult discussion about what it's going to look like if we don't start fixing this stuff.
Right. So just general consensus that we get that list, we have a discussion next meeting as part of our budget deliberations. Does that work for everybody? I'm just looking for a nod, then we can ask questions again. Yes. Okay. So go ahead. I see Councillor Tadman. I think everyone on this side has a question. We'll go down the row. Go ahead, Councillor Tadman.
Thank you. No sidewalks this year? Some maintenance?
No, yet. No capital sidewalks, only the maintenance.
Okay.
We definitely want to do that
And
too.
nothing on Casey's Lane?
No, nothing yet.
2025, we are legislated that we have to have things accessible. So next year's 22, and that is one area that needs fixing. I'm glad that the sidewalks are getting fixed up all along Main and along Elizabeth and whatever. And I think you sent a message to somebody that Smithfield will be done too.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Just to speak to Casey Lane, we did inspect it with our sidewalk inspection device. No trip hazards were noted or picked up. So the entirety of Casey Lane from Main Street right to the Henderson Plaza development, it's all impresscrete. It was done approximately 15 years ago. It is in pretty good shape. There are lights in place on the, there's 2 lights on the old Stedman's building. And then there's a street light that lights the portions north and south of Park Street. And then there's additional lights on the rear of the liquor store building that light that lane.
Do they actually work?
I haven't walked in a couple of months at night, so
do.
we have to look. But the ones do work at the liquor store because they were on all day last week. So
Well,
those
that's
ones are
handy.
working.
Maybe they go off at night.
Councillor Bateman?
I was just going to skip back up one with your permission, because it kind of ties into the development charges study and renewal. I'm not sure if it's the CAO or Mr. Walsh. When that study comes back, will that have recommendations of what the development charge should look like? Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're one of the lowest for development charges for municipalities, are we not?
So I'll jump in here, and Paul, we can tag team here. And I think Linda had mentioned this earlier on. The purpose of opening up the development charges bylaw is certainly to update some of the projects that we've estimated in the old study. So I'll give you an example of that. We had estimated, and jump in here, Linda, because I'll probably get the number wrong. We had estimated the MBBR project to be plus or minus $6 million. Well, and we're establishing the DC rates based upon that project being $6 million. Well, we're all aware now today that it's a little bit higher than that. And we'll be smarter on November 12th to understand exactly what the tendered amount is. So that's one of the reasons that we're opening up that study. So the bottom line is, as a result of that study, are we going to have an updated bylaw? You bet, and with new numbers.
Just while it's on my mind, I think number 2 and Drummond Street needs a light at the end of the street there. It's very dark and very treacherous there. For years, people have talked about that. All right, well, maybe it's on our property, the light is, but a bad area anyhow. But I think the rest of Smithfield's getting safer every day. Thanks for all the good work that's been done this year out there. Regarding Main Street West, I think it's something that seemed to be almost a priority, one of your top of your list that you were talking about. And I tend to agree with you. But the biggest concern, or the largest concern I have, is with the development out there, and there's lots of it, and there's lots of it on the horizon, obviously. It'd be really nice to know where we're going with certain projects that are out there, because their projects, when we looked at their site plans or their plans for development, included sidewalks, included widening road, including right up to Ontario Street. All these things came forward during those sessions. So if we were to go and do anything, it would be really to our benefit as well as theirs if we can get together on this and get moving on it. You said you got 70-year infrastructure, pipes bursting, or potential of more problems, it sounds, from what I'm reading between the lines. Can we find out, this would be a lot, use a term, less expensive to get something going with what the developers out there, and put together a package where we do that road with the county, ourselves, and the developer. And rather than us just go and get at it and get doing it and then spending money. And it sounds like that Highway 30 telephone road situation in a way. We're doing work. That's where I was leading to there. We're doing work there, not knowing the future of certain areas. And we don't know the future of the Main Street West at this moment. We don't. A lot of nice plans, but really nobody's putting their shovel in the ground. So I'd like to know if that's something we can work on and move forward to in a time. Maybe we can get some results and get something going so we can get it at the top of the list, and I think it should be at the top of the list. It's one of the main roads coming into this community, and if it's got problems, and there's a lot of people affected by those pipes that you're talking about. It was obvious, I guess, the case that you had there just recently, what damage or what effects it can have on such a large part of our population. So I think we should be digging into it and finding out what's going on and if anything's going to go on. So can I ask go ahead, Bob.
Through you, Madam Chair. I think that's an excellent point, Ron. Part of our job, whether it's senior staff and or council, is to look to the horizon and understand what the long-term game plan is going to be. So, certainly this year's budget, we're looking at water modeling. We're also looking at sewer modeling. And Paula's got in mind to do some secondary planning. So it's all about understanding the infrastructure that we have in place and what the game plan is for the future. So do we need to understand what the master servicing strategy is going to be, whether that's for roads, water, sewer planning? You bet. Because once you have the bigger picture, then you can go after partners. So certainly, down on Rundle and that area, that's a high growth area. And so we're very anxious to understand what the long-term game plan is there from a servicing and population needs basis. So I agree with you. I think we need to take a longer term approach, and we're taking some of those steps through these modeling exercises and the secondary planning exercises to do just that. So I'm anxious to find out what that game plan is.
In planning, and that you think that would be sort of on paper now. It was on paper when I saw it, a nice diagram. But I mean, those commitments from builders, developers, from counties, from province, from ourselves should be. We should have a document saying that this is what's going on and this is what's going to happen and this is, and we're doing it with subdivisions and all that. But I'm talking about, our main traffic areas, our main roads. I don't know enough. I'm still learning, but I always believe that you've got to have those plans in place with agreements well down the road, and then you can go after funding and you can do all that when you have your ducks in a row. So that's why I brought it up, because it's frustrating to see those things happening. And then council works darn hard to try to come up with a good budget and a good plan and let these guys do their job, but we're not getting all the answers.
So basically, next week, we're going to have a further discussion on roads and maybe sidewalks, and we can talk about where we want to go with that. Next, we have Parks and Rec and the harbor. Anything there that has been left off?
Well, a couple of things come to mind. Expanding the dog park parking lot. I've been told, and I've noticed that's really well used, and we do need to expand that area. So probably about 10 grand. And one of our older compressors, it's been here since the arena was built in '77. It's really starting to show its age right now. So it needs to be replaced, and it's $40,000. If not this year, next year's, like 2022.
Okay. Next, we have our, oh yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Jim, I don't have it in front of me right now. It's on another page. You talked about the community center kitchen, that you need to replace the island, the countertops, and
Yes.
some shelving. Does that include cupboard doors and everything? Because
Well, the
some of them
island
are pretty
part,
crappy.
the island part, the whole thing.
The whole island part?
Yeah.
Okay. I just was wondering if you needed more, because like I said, having been in that kitchen a few times, some of those cupboards are a little wonky, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So it's the complete island that you're looking at changing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Next, we have sewer and water. Is there anything there that, I mean, these are large expenditures as they are. Is there anything else that's been left off? Just gonna.
Nothing from the physical plant, just the linear infrastructure.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor LeBlanc.
Through you, Madam Chair. For Preston, Director of Parks and Rec, we always, previous budgets, we were always doing cameraing and extending, because I think we got 7 kilometers left the line to do in the town for cameraing, but I don't see it in this budget. Is something that we're not going to do, or should it be done, or was it part of the budget and taken out?
Through your worship, those funds are through the operational budget, and there should be a tender going out in the next few weeks to complete the remaining sewer, and it's a little over 8 kilometers left.
Okay, does council feel they have enough information to go back and think about it and have a discussion next week? Yeah, okay. So I have a motion that the first draft be received, but are we receiving it tonight? Is that? Okay, so we can receive it tonight for information. Okay. Okay, so I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley and seconded by Councillor Bateman that the first draft of the 2021 budget deliberations for capital budget be received. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, so next we have a question period. Go ahead, Linda.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor. One of the things that we wanted to discuss this evening was for the November 10th meeting, which is external budgets. Council has already asked that we invite the YMCA to come and do a presentation to the Committee of the Whole. And I was wondering if there were any other external agencies or grant and aid applicants or somebody from one of those organizations or all of those organizations that council wishes to have a presentation from.
Councillor Tadden?
Thank you. I always like to hear from the organizations because that way I can be convinced that we're spending the money in the right places, or at least giving out money to good causes. So, and it's a good way for all of us on council to realize what these different groups are doing. That's the grants and aid, and also for the other external ones too. I think it always helps. Something like digital archives, maybe not everybody knows what they do, and it's good to have them come and tell us.
They're a committee of council, though.
They are,
Yeah.
yeah. So any other externals like Quinny Access?
Just refresh, do we normally send an invite? Have we sent an invite to all of them at any point? Do we have a meeting where we just hear from those groups? Maybe it's worth it to do that.
We haven't done it in the past, not at least in the recent past. However, there are agencies that come to council. The hospital foundations are some of the agencies I can think of. Lower Trent likes to come to council.
Quinny Access.
Quinny Access, but they don't necessarily present their budget.
No.
They talk to council about what they do and some of their initiatives, but they don't necessarily talk to council about how your support is assisting them.
Did you want to comment?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. May I suggest that we advise these groups that will be discussing the budgets on the 10th of November? If they want to send a representative in case we have questions at that time, then someone might be here for that purpose rather than actually asking for formal presentations. That could take 3-4 hours to get through. I don't think council needs to listen to, the 15 or 20 groups, but it might be good. They might be wise to send someone to be present while we debate the overall budget impacts for their external budgets.
Any other thoughts from council on that? And there is, in some ways, I would love to actually see them all come and say a few words, but because of the times we're in, I think that's probably not a good idea for this year in some ways. But I don't know, something for us to consider is having a night maybe next year where we actually hear from any of those who want to come and chat with us. It's good for them. It's good promotion for them as an organization as well, and for us all to know. Go ahead, Councillor Rowley.
Maybe it's something that we should schedule through the year, that instead of doing everything at budget time, that we maybe start in January and see if we can invite 2 or 3 once a month or something like that until we do hear from them all, if that's what council would.
Yeah, and we can ask them, it can be a 10-minute sort of presentation. It doesn't have to be hours long. It's just hearing about what they're doing in the community. Go ahead, Preston.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that Samantha has already sent that map with lists to everybody on council. And we'll have hard copies at Sharp Road if somebody would like one of those, because it will be kind of small on a normal size piece of paper. So
Okay.
we'll have some copies ready for tomorrow morning at Sharp Road.
And for those who don't pick one up, would you please bring them to the meeting on the 3rd of
Excuse me.
November? Thank you.
It's not COVID. Anyone else on that suggestion from Linda? Do we want to specifically ask anyone else, or we're good with? So we're just going to let them know that we would like that we will be discussing, and if they'd like to be there to answer questions, then they're free to do that. Is that?
So just to clarify then, I understand for everybody else, council has specifically asked to hear from the YMCA about their budget.
Yes, we have.
So you still want to have them come as a delegation?
Yes. Is that everything, Linda, at this point? Can we move on to question period? You're good? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Question period. Is there anyone present who has a question of committee of the whole tonight? Nobody. Come on, someone must have some question. Sorry. I don't get to be here that often in this chair. Come on. No? We can get you a mic, a clean mic. No? Sorry. Let me have my fun. Okay. Well, sorry, folks. So we are moving on into our in-camera session. So I guess at this point, it'd be a good idea to take a recess, 10 minutes. And it's 7:59, so 10 after 8. Councillor Tadman, 10 after 8. Be back.